middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
That was Donald Trump this weekend with a rather bizarre expression of love for his loyal supporters. They are loyal. Our latest CNN poll shows him with a commanding lead in Iowa, 37%, to Ted Cruz's 26%. The two leading candidates giving the Republican establishment some major heartburn. Let's bring back our panel. We should point out, same thing as with Clinton-Sanders. When you poll only those people that participated in the 2012 caucuses, it's actually a neck-and-neck race with Ted Cruz slightly above Donald Trump. It's only if you include all of the voters that Trump has out there in Iowa that he wins. I know that the Cruz people are very confident about their ground game.
Well, they should be. I mean, they've had a lot of grassroots supports for a long time due to the strong stances that Ted Cruz has taken in the Senate. This isn't something that just happened overnight. He's been cultivating this network for a long time as he worked to defund Obamacare, defund amnesty, and so on. Donald Trump just doesn't have that because he wasn't there for any of it.
Yeah. Kevin, let me ask you a question. I just want to fact check what Donald Trump said at the beginning of the segment. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose voters. I would fact check that true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where we begin with the psychoanalyze that. But he is talking about the intense loyalty that his supporters have in a way that is, I mean, it demonstrates his arrogance, but it also demonstrates just how confident he is that he doesn't have to worry about saying anything wrong. He doesn't have to play the conventional, political game that most folks do.
But there is something, because he continually says such outrageous things, and we get so fascinated in that. I do not think Donald Trump has been vetted as a traditional candidate, and we're just now beginning to see that with National Review coming out with their coalition effort to go through the issues and say, hey, maybe we've been caught up in this too long. This guy should not be trusted.
Here's the question.
He is a tyrant.
Do those supporters care about issues and his stance on them, or a sense of ideological purity? I love what National Review did. I agree with them. We should be a party of ideas. But right now, the people that are supporting Trump, they are not about ideas. They're more about how his rhetoric and how he.
So I gotta add this. They love him because of the enemies he's made. I mean, all of these establishment figures finally coming out against Donald Trump. That is like gravy on a potato for supporters. They're like, yes, they want him to be hated in Washington. They want him to be hated by the establishment. So I think coming out with this notion that he can shoot and not lose a vote, that's his hubris.
And we're 8 or 9 days away from caucuses.
No, the fact is not that he would say it. He just says all kinds of disgusting things, but that he could say it and get away with it, which we know that he will. But see, I think Trump has tapped into something, in a way, the same thing that Bernie Sanders has tapped into. In both parties, you've got somebody tapping into this anti-establishment, this anger again, this frustration. And I think that some in the Republican Party, I can speak for you, are starting to come to the realization that, you know what? Trump could end up being our nominee.
Yeah.
And I think the Democratic Party is going to have to start establishment coming up with the realization, and you know what? Bernie Sanders could be our nominee.
But I do think Trump is running out of runway. I mean, if you look at the polling, he's up by double digits. He reads those polls every day at his rallies to say, look at how impressive I am. He's thrown the kitchen sink at Ted Cruz, gone after his evangelical faith, the Goldman Sachs loans, the birtherism, anything he could think of. If Cruz beats him, despite of that, Trump is out of tricks to pull in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
But he's still ahead in New Hampshire. We still don't know what's going to happen.
According to the polls, but maybe not the caucus.
We don't know what's going to happen. Any predictions?
For the Republicans?
No, for the Democrats. Well, you got to stay neutral.
Well, my only prediction is that Donald Trump's going to say something equally outrageous tomorrow, and we will have forgotten that he even said he's going to shoot people on Fifth Avenue. So.
Any thoughts? Do you think Bernie Sanders might pull off Iowa?
I think Bernie Sanders will win Iowa. I think he will win New Hampshire, and then it's a whole new ballgame. And I know you want to talk probably about Michael Bloomberg. But I think if Bernie Sanders wins Iowa and New Hampshire, I just want to throw this out there. I think Joe Biden will have second thoughts. Joe Biden will not stand by.
Oh, you think he's going to run in, jump in?
Meaning jump in.
As an independent, but not as a Democrat.
As a Democrat. He will not stand by.
If Bernie Sanders wins Iowa,
my belief is that if it looks like Hillary's falling apart, Joe Biden will not stand by and let Bernie Sanders become a nominee without a fight.
It's interesting because in Davos, just the other day, he said something negative about socialism. We don't need socialism.
He also said he regrets deciding not to run.
He regrets it every day. Amanda, let me ask you about this Mike Bloomberg thing. A Bloomberg source told me that they polled for it because I said, well, surely that would just hand the election over to the Republican because Mike Bloomberg is essentially a liberal in so many ways, especially social issues. And I was told no, according to Bloomberg internal polling, what they have, because he's obviously conservative when it comes to some fiscal issues and maybe foreign policy, they have him actually taking away more votes now from the Trump wing than Donald Trump than from Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I find Trump and Bloomberg to be very interchangeable. I mean, they're both big city New York businessmen, billionaires, who have done very well for themselves, who think they can come in and buy the election. And so I find Michael Bloomberg to essentially be Donald Trump with a better temperament.
What do you think? Do you think Donald?
Well, I guess we'll go from make America great again, or as I say, make America hate again, to make America safe again. Bloomberg with all of his policies on guns, safety, etc. I think Bloomberg, it's a big challenge to get on the ballot in all of these states. Only you have 79,000 in Texas, for example. So there's over 900,000 ballots. I mean, petitions you got to get signed. Big hurdle, but
he needs to make a decision by the first week in March.
And would he run if he unless he could win? And what states does Michael Bloomberg win?
Versus grassroots.
If we're looking at the electoral map, where does he get enough electoral votes to win?
Before we go, I want to introduce to you this moment of Zen in case you went to bed early last night. It's a little comic throwback, as we had this week, a political throwback on the trail.
They stomp on our necks and say, "What's the big deal? Take a chill pill, Jill." But we're mad. We've been had, and we're not so glad, quoth the Lorax.
It's good to see Tina. Good to see Tina Fey again.
That was priceless.
I missed her after 30
Absolutely.
Rock. Sarah Palin, of course.